Hi, how are we doing everybody? Welcome to Russell Heritage Golf. Today going to be talking about a drill that I use all the time when it comes to doing online lessons, and it basically just gets people in the correct orientation to improve their ball striking. I've mentioned it before on the channel. I reckon it was quite a long time ago, so it's worth revisiting. Now, first, to get the orientation correct, I'd suggest that you use a chair. Okay, so basically the main focus of this video, once we've talked about the face-on perspective, is very much from the side on. Now the idea is that essentially when you get set up, we did a video recently where I talked about reverse engineering method, which means that basically we're adopting an impact position from the address position. So that means getting set up, opening up the hips, trying to keep your shoulders relatively square to target, and keeping the club face aligned to the direction where you're aiming. Now, to stop this from happening, basically the feeling is that your left hip is working back away from the chair, thigh will point towards the chair, but sternum very much stays on top of the chair. And this will just massively change your feelings in the transition. If you're somebody who goes this way, to feel much more aware of this. It's an exaggerated drill, but remember, that's what we're looking for in this type of exercise. So the setup position, and the reason why the chair is there, is basically just to ensure that you get your sternum located over your lead ankle more, pull the left hip back, increase the weight pressure on that left hand side, and then basically you're going to try and stay in that orientation and just swing your arms back and then through. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to stop golfers that end up going back up and out of it, chest gets too square and end up flipping this way, and we're trying to get the feeling of opening up and trying to hit the ball much more in this manner. Now that'll work, and that will work pretty instantaneously, it always does. But then the bigger trick, and that's why I want to focus from the side-on perspective, is what do you do with your arms? Because one of the really common problems in the golf swing when it comes to a lot of amateur movement is that you excessively bend the right arm in the backswing position, which then means the elbow gets a little bit stuck, which means that that's why you can get inconsistency in contact, similar to kind of what I demonstrated there, because you end up looking a bit sort of this way instead of moving the elbow that way. So we're going to talk more about the right arm movement or the trail arm movement in more detail very soon, but you open up the hips. And then the idea is in the backswing position, you want to try and feel like you're trying to create as much width. So feel like you're really trying to get your right elbow working away from your rib cage in the backswing position and creating much more width to the necessary amount that your lead arm can stay in contact with the club, and try and avoid getting too deep this way, right? And then from there, the feeling is, depending on how your natural inclination to hit the ball is, that you set up, you take it back nice and wide, and then you want to try and get the feeling that again your elbow and your forearm are working much more in front of the hip and trying to hit the ball in this sort of fashion. So, you know, analogies are a really good way of learning, drills are a really good way of learning. There's loads of different stuff that you can do, which is basically what a drill is. You know, people that are tennis players and play other side-on sports, I generally use the analogy that basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the feeling of when we're hitting like a tennis forehand, that the chest is going to the left and the arm is going to the right. So it's like the ball comes over the net, I'm playing against you, I open up, it gives me the ability to hit it either to your right or your left, and then I choose to hit it down that sort of way. And that's basically the same sort of feeling when it comes to this sort of drill. Is that what we don't want to do is we don't want to become the tennis player who gets really shut off and has to kind of wrap the hands over it. We want to become the type of player who can anticipate it, open themselves off much more, and then really get the feeling of maintaining angles and just driving the arms through. In terms of distance, you're not going to be hitting it far. There's no need to. It's only a drill to make sure that you can hear a decent sort of contact and you're getting a decent sort of direction. And because it's a nice slow motion, you can see the way that as I swing through, there's very little manipulation of things like the club face and the release. But what it's doing is it's just something that could potentially become a pitching drill, and you can advance it once you feel ready. But again, like I said, take your time, yeah, with this. Open up nice and wide, drive your elbow, concentrate on things like the contact as well, so we can kind of see here, yeah, decent sort of contact in terms of consistency upon the club face hit as well. Let's get in there, yeah, so we can see there's an element of focus, yeah, in terms of the contact. So these are really important things that you need to start paying attention to is like, okay, get yourself in this transitional position, think about your elbow, and just try and think a little bit about the contact as well, and just change it up. But that would be a real good sense of feedback, is the hit, which is why I think it is probably the best ball striking drill that you can realistically achieve. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Always appreciate one of those. Remember, it's absolutely free to press that subscribe button. If you're going to do so, press the little bell icon, because that means you'll receive notifications every time a new video comes out. Catch up with you again soon.